Well, this is something that I wanted to ask you more about because this this approach to puberty has a lot of serious implications about how we think of this kind of developmental stage. And you talk in your paper about how, you know, this potentially invites us to think about puberty as a kind of disease or as the hormones of the body as some sort of a medical issue. And it's like some people are using that to make the claim that it's unethical for an individual to go through puberty if they didn't fully consent to the puberty. And I know that seems like a very fringe idea, but you highlighted like a case of a non-binary kid who kind of used this justification to be put on, it was something like over 10 years of puberty blockers so that they can remain androgynous in their appearance. And I think, fringe cases like that really do raise some interesting questions about what are the implications of this approach, like how we're thinking about puberty.
Exactly. Yeah. So in some ways, it is a perversion, right? To think about the sort of body's natural processes, the essential process of becoming an adult human being, as
Yeah.
itself a kind of, it's almost like a kind of, it's viewed as a kind of cancer, right? The cancer eating away at you, and the sort of, particularly once kids have been socially transitioned. And of course, socially transitioning is only created by puberty blockers, right? The existence of puberty blockers allows early social transition. So for the first time, parents could say, I'm going to enroll my boy in primary school as a girl. And of course, because I know that when puberty hits, we can stop it. And then, of course, the child is now absolutely terrified as soon as they begin to get a bit of hair, the normal male puberty, signs of male puberty. This is now absolutely, it is catastrophic for the child because you've told the child for years and years, you're really a girl.
Mhm.
And of course, you're maybe in stealth. Maybe all the other kids think you're really a girl, and so it's sort of an induced by the transitioning process catastrophic outcome. But the logic, yes, you're right in saying the logic is, you can't, consenting to puberty is a bit like consenting to sex. There has to be sort of proactive assent, enthusiastic. What's the term?
Oh yeah, freely given.
Enthusiastic, sort of explicit consent. And of course, that wasn't intended by the Dutch, because the Dutch are very, at the very beginning. I mean, recently, and you saw that with your interview with Stainsma and De Vries, they've sort of jumped on the non-binary queer stuff, but they were very straight-laced. They're very incredibly heteronormative. There's nothing more heteronormative than a Dutch clinician. They're very much, here's a boy, we turn him into a straight girl. Here's a homosexual girl, we turn her into a good heterosexual guy. And that was very much their fixed idea of you just basically transitioning one to the other, keeping the sexes distinct. So actually very, very sort of old-fashioned approach to transsexuals. And but of course the implication is that puberty, why go through puberty at all? And there are some Australian cases now where you put the kid on puberty blockers at the age of 12 or 11 or whatever it is. And then when you come to 16, you say, okay, now we're going to give you, she's a female, now we're going to give you testosterone. She says, no, I don't want the testosterone. I want to be I want to be a sort of a juvenile forever.
Oh.
And even though this is catastrophic physically in terms of bone density and so on, she's now got to the age of 16 where you can't, now she's, if she was younger, you could say, well, we're going to force you to do this for your own good. But at 16, you say, well, she's got her own, she's an autonomous individual now. She can make her own decision. And it's her decision to be a non-binary person who never
grows up.
Puberty. And that's the logical consequence. And you could say, well, of course, this is an anomaly. There's only a few cases like this. But of course, it was also true in the 1990s. This was also just an exceptional few cases.
That really blew my mind when I read that because, Stella and I and you, Michael, we all swim in this world. So it's almost we're almost desensitized to it. But when I was thinking about how incredibly rare childhood transition interests were in the first place, and then I read this thing about the perpetually suspended in some kind of asexual state this little kid was, I was like, oh, that's terrifying if this is where things are going, because I'm sure nobody imagined 30 years ago that we would have this number of children transitioning. So it's not impossible for that to be the way things are headed.
Exactly.